Many folks ain't never heard of me, so I'ma introduce myself by using some hyperboles. I am that voice that talks a tongue, but no one chatters back. They rather act like bladders acting spaz on rappers. Matter of fact, that's so real, I can't say like nah yet. Feelings that I caught made me feel that caution. Waiting for the day I get the silence I deserve. So I ain't talking oxen when I say I just wanna be here. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am. I wanna show that now's our time. Today's my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay. Man, I'm finally getting this show. I can fit it raw. Zizzy, y'all. In case you didn't know me, let me tell you it's a rap. Like I'm sick of eating hoagies. They try to lock this top notch down on the low key and provoke me. I stick my tongue at them. Like Yoshi, I got to show people I can come up and swag. And when they feel my presence, they gon' back up like that. They see me now, they hear me very loudly, crystal clearly. Now they all jocking, pole jocking, trying to be near me. What is up? Now no one's ever speaking but me. When I talk, cause when I talk, it's all for DJ IG. Dag, yo, it's only me and my team that will come with more flavor than a bowl of ice cream. Since the verse is ending, I'ma thank you all for listening. Taking time and witnessing. Now I'm finally glistening. Feeling like I'm Christian. Well, that might not be the word. Beg your pardon, y'all. I just wanna be heard. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am. I wanna show that now's our time. Today's my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay. Martin made him say that. Malcolm made him say that. Bill Clinton, oh boy, yeah, he made him say dag. I mean, dag, do I got a blast? Make some people mad just to grab me that precious glam like I'm Smeagol's hand. Nah, man, they ain't even right. And I won't test the road, cause I keep this next to my heart. It's like a stethoscope. If you ain't hear that, do not worry. You can rest assured. Google me or look me up with that Dewey Decimal, yeah. To be cherished and be loved is to be heard. To be seen and to be noticed and receive what you deserve. Put them high. No wait, cause see it ain't your turn. Psych, nah. DJ IG, we spittin' verse. And let that be my testimony. You just learned a lesson, homie. One that talks the talk and walks, it is the one who gets the trophy. It's hard for me to step when they be stepping on me, but I ain't the only one. It seems like everywhere I go, everybody there trying to steal the show. So I'm here with my plan. I gotta let him hear who I am. I wanna show that now's our time. Today is my day to make you say dang, cause I'm getting my way. It's my time to shine and it's okay. Yeah.
Player on top, know it. Rooftop pit, how sweet. If you really want it, gotta own it. Fight through it, we was at the lowest. Blood, sweat, tears, the components. Riding all year, now's the moment. We are not friends, we are opponents. Yeah, I'm coming for mine. Yeah, I'm making a play, the game on the line. Yeah, I've been on the grind. Yeah, I jump in the spot, I made it my time. Yeah, look in the sky. Yeah, the stars align, no shade to shine. Can't stop it already. Emotional work and devotion. We put in this time. Look, you won't stop. Back, might have took an L, we don't count that though. Remember bad, we was down bad, now the way we looking, gotta doubt that. I know you see the way we moving, giving game, better listen like a student. Don't talk bad it, be about it, do it. Look here, really ain't nothing to it. I got proof for you like tenfold. Always down for the team, 10 toes. You been hater, we been on. Won't quit till I'm in the end zone. Won't stop till I hit the goal line. Never been the one to need a cosign. Can't stop it already, emotional work and devotion. We put in this bedtime, look.
At the end, I'll be there waiting for the rest. I don't take pity on the man who couldn't keep up with my best. No contest, no. You won't stop my stride. I'll just break your line. I don't tolerate wasted time. Coming to take what's mine.
Can't stop, won't stop, won't. If you really want it, gotta own it. Blood, sweat, tears, the components.
Take us down, keep fighting.
Yeah. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Yeah, I'm in the end zone. Where did he go? You way too slow, homie, I been gone. I know you see, I got the rings, homie, I been flown. Me and the team going for rings, that is the end goal. Hey, I go beast mode, all on the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo, can't stop me like Chico's. I'm suave like Rico, can't be mine no repo. This my home like Depot, can't deny like Vito. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash.
Playoff territory inches closer through the final 3 races of the regular season, with the next stop in the heart of the state where everything is bigger. And we're live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Race 7 is next as we welcome you to the URP 120 and our patriotic showdown. Everything is bigger in Texas, as they say, and so are the hopes of the drivers looking to take a stand in the points or to grab a first checkered flag. Welcome to our coverage on the KBueno Racing Network. We're up atop the Texas Motor Speedway. My name is Kenneth Bueno, and while we've had a tumultuous journey throughout this season of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, it's time we go back to some regular racing. We've had a couple of different tracks on the schedule, most notably Auto Club. We had Long Beach just 1 week ago. We weren't able to broadcast that. Austin Duran, the winner. We'll talk about that in just a little bit before we get to the start and our green flag here in the URP 120 in the Patriotic Showdown. But we've had a couple of different tracks, and so far 3 different winners over the past 3 races. You look at Garrett White going to victory lane at Kansas, then Auto Club, the showdown that was Christian Visconti returning to the series in full force with that checkered flag, and then like we said, Austin Duran going for the race win. One thing though that has been very important as we step through the journey of the season has been the point standings. We inch closer to the end of the regular season. That means we have to talk about who's going to be in contention for this season's playoffs. We start Gino Mero at the top of the charts in his 71 machine, and we've seen everybody second on back really go all in sort of a whack because everybody has been not racing certain races and having tough starts, and we've seen so many drivers and many that have already taken checkered flags this season not in the top 10 in points. To look at Garrett White, who has been one of the most consistent drivers all season. He's top 14, a 3-way tie just around that cut line in the top 16. That's going to be very important. We'll talk about that. Your top 10 in standings, though, that's how it falls all down. And as we enter to the Texas Motor Speedway, this track a very interesting 1.5 miler and very different from a lot of the others that we have already seen on the calendar. This track opened back in 1996, a quadruple configuration here in the heart of Fort Worth. It's 1.5 miles, 2.4 kilometers, so roughly the same length as what we saw at Las Vegas and at Kansas in race number 2 and race number 4 in the season. But the one thing to note about this track that's very different from the others we've seen, the difference in banking, the difference in grip. 20 degrees, they lowered it in 2017 after the reconfiguration in turns 1 and 2. They kept the same 24 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4, but everybody wants to wrap that bottom lane. Ever since this track has been revamped and reconfigured, this track has all been about high grip and high momentum to keep yourself wound up and to at least have some sort of remarkable lap time, have yourself at the top, and be competitive with the entire series and the entire field. This is only the second time, by the way, that WORC has visited the Texas Motor Speedway, at least in this capacity, so it has been a very long time, and we have never been to this track in series history. Season 1, it was not existent whatsoever on the calendar, so it is going to be a very interesting challenge to see who can take the checkered flag this evening. Qualifying time has ticked down to 0. It is our time to take you trackside to see exactly which drivers will start at the front, where they start at the back, or where every single driver is in between, as we will kick off our URP 120 and our patriotic showdown from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Diego Roldan takes his first career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series pole with a 30.259. He'll bring that 72 to the green flag first. He will be joined alongside by your points leader, Gino Mero, in the 71, still searching for win number 1 this season. He starts on the outside of that first row. Hayes Booth also yearning for that checkered flag, at least number 1 for him in this series. He rolls off in P3. Sky McGurk, rookie driver, inside the top 5 in points. He's on the outside in P4. Logan Suyi with a great qualifying effort to put him inside the top 5. He is joined by last week's winner, Austin Duran, in the 55, fresh off of the dominating race at Long Beach, looking to become the second driver this season to go 2 in a row, and he will join Dimitri Munoz if he can do that. John Canizaro in the 018, a great season so far for him, most notably on these 1.5 milers. Be sure to watch him as he rolls off from 7th. Joe Berge in the point standings, very high he will roll off on the outside of row number 4 in P8. Timmy Spatz and Pierce Maffett, the 54 and the 47, the 2 to round out your top 10. Dimitri Monjo still looking for win number 3 on the calendar. He rolls off P11. Seth Warren will be to the outside in P12. Ethan Workman, Clayton Ramstead, the 25 and the 21, roll 13th and 14th on the grid to the green flag. Connor Hervilla and James Bomar, the 29 and the 44, the 2 to double up in row number 8. Kaden Reif in the 97 starts 17th. Garrett White will have a lot of work to do from 18th, outside row 9 on the starting grid. Hunter Collier in the 98 rolls off 19th. Lace Hicks, the last driver to round out your current top 20. Chase Marsden, Ryan Zabo, the 89 and the 10, the 2 to double up in row number 11. TJ Lair and Chris Lilly back to 24th. Ezekiel Reyes making his first start since Auto Club last season. Great to see him back in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. He's back in 25th, though, after qualifying. He is joined alongside by defending series champion Josh Patterson in the 02. Ethan Harrison is 27th. Henry Clapper will be 28th, followed by Tyson Gifford in 29th. The last driver to set a time in qualifying, but that does not signal the end of the field. Alexander Hyder will join alongside him in row number 15, P30. DJ Powell, Brady Cox, Steven Shipman, Brayson Collins, Frederick Seagraves back to 35th, and then Nick Pena, Ryan Martin, and the 119 of David Bachman will complete our 38th car field here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at the weather in Texas before we go green flag racing. Of course, it isn't the hottest track temp that we'll ever see here at this track in Fort Worth. Air temp around 82 degrees, winds to the southwest at 16 miles an hour. Some of the highest winds we've seen all season long at any track on the calendar. No humidity, no fog. It is a mostly cloudy sunset evening in Texas in Sim, so it should be a beautiful night to go racing. We'll flicker on the lights and we'll get these patriotic cars racked down here as they'll get for the checkered flag. We'll see exactly who might take it. We go 80 laps, 120 miles, just over 190 kilometers in distance, and that has been the same denominator over every single intermediate race. We've had 3 different winners in our intermediate track so far this season. Can we see a different with a new driver at the helm of the field? Pace car off the exit of turn 4 into pit road. The two Ford Mustangs in Diego Roldan and Gino Mero wrap up through the gears. We're green in the URP 120. Prancing horses occupy the top 3. Roldan leads lap 1. Hayes Booth follow behind him. Gino Mero falls back to 3rd. They get back for turn 1, and already you can tell Hayes Booth on a mission early on. The 72 rolls up the track. He gets loose on the back straightaway. Here comes Hayes Booth for the race lead in turn 3. And quick work out of the 03, and you see just how useless that top lane is. Caution flag out for the first time. Now it looks like a contact issue. That's Tyson Gifford, Nick Pena, the 91 and the 52 involved in our first caution early on. Looks like the trouble happened on the back straightaway. There's a look at Pena's car. As he limps, it looks like some severe right side damage, especially near that exhaust port. Doesn't seem to be any more, though. And he might have collected Gifford in it. We'll see how exactly this all unfolded. Looks like Gifford might have gone unsettled on his own right. This is him on the outside here. That's Brayson Collins in the 5, 61 machine on top. And there's Steven Shipman in the 61 on the bottom. Looks like the 91 rolls the high side and grabs loose and just smacks the outside wall. And smacks it twice, comes back down the track. And then Nick Pena, there's Ryan Martin getting a piece of it as well. And the Live Made Media machine of Tyson Gifford in trouble early on board with the 91. We saw this happen and rolled on lap number 2, just getting loose, washing up the track, but this time for Gifford, it results in a hit with the outside wall twice, and then coming back down the track into the 52 of Pena, who grabbed some damage. Fortunately, I believe both of the drivers will be able to escape, along with Ryan Martin, the tertiary car involved in that incident. It looks like it won't be enough damage to signal them completely out of this race, but obviously do not want to be in trouble this early on lap number 2, as the lead already changed hands and rolled on. Your pole sitter has dropped back to 3rd on the race grid with Hayes Booth, your current race leader. Hayes Booth, a driver who we've seen very strong over the first couple of races of this season, most notably the highlight effort at Phoenix, where unfortunately got turned by Garrett White coming out of turn 2. That could have been a race where he might have gotten to victory lane. He's still searching for win number 1 on the calendar, and that Ford Mustang of Booth has been outstanding in terms of consistency, in terms of absolute raw pace, and right now already showing it by taking the lead this early on in the race as we continue to wrap through our first caution of the night in the URP 120. So while we're under caution for the first time tonight, we'll talk about the driver who got to victory lane 1 week ago at the Long Beach circuit in Long Beach, California. The first road course race of the season, the first ever WORC race with the Xfinity cars at that track. Built for Indy cars, built for sports cars, but has never featured stock car racing. At least it's possible here in the sim. WORC decided to go there last week. We did not have that broadcast right here in the KBueno Racing Network. Our good friends at the Ghost Racing Network were able to cover that race, and Austin Duran severely dominated that bout. 20 of the 21 laps led, and Austin Duran grabbed his 3rd career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory, and his first this season. Duran immediately shooting up to the point standings as a result. We've seen a lot of consistent finishes out of the 55. Maybe this could be the turnaround in the second half of the regular season. We've seen that happen a lot, and like many in this field, that 55 sporting the red, white, and blue, or this time red, black, and blue here in the patriotic event here from Texas, and also has a great hashtag on the back of the race car, KB43 forever, in honor of Ken Block, the rally driver and the Gymkhana star, who unfortunately passed away just a couple of days ago. We wish the best for the family, the Block family, and the entire motorsports community. I know all of us feeling that severely. And right now, Austin Dorn in that 55, back to the topic, is in P6. He'll roll off outside row number 3 on the next restart. So a lengthy caution here. Did have a couple of drivers who did hit pit road, and that starts with the number 43, or 41 rather, of Joe Berge. We see him as a top driver in the point standings, one that could easily be one of the favorites heading for the playoffs, and a consistent, stealthy driver. And Brayson Collins, Nick Pena, looks like a couple of others have joined them in. I believe James Bomar has decided to put it behind the wall and into the garage. He may be our first DNF tonight. Tyson Gifford and company did get damage repair, but they're going to be all the way at the tail end of the field. So hopefully we can see them grab some track position, as I believe we'll get the 1 green signal from the iRacing official pace truck. We'll go back to green here on lap number 7 of 80 after an early caution. Similar to what we had at Kansas just a couple of weeks back, we had that opening lap caution with the 46 and Ryan Barome, and we saw a huge crash happen out of that, but the rest of the race stayed green, and a lot of our intermediate races have a combined 2 cautions, I believe, throughout the entirety of those races. We've seen a lot of the intermediate tracks carry the least amount of cautions, the longest amount of runs, and usually the most exciting pit road sequences under green. So maybe we could see that again. Maybe the trend follows once more. We see another early caution followed by a long green flag racing. And we talk about drivers that are good on long green flag racing. Hayes Booth has been one of them, and so has the driver of the 60, Dimitri Mundros, our 2-time winner this season. He was able to dominate Las Vegas. He was able to grab another win at Phoenix. And we'll look for his third as one of the drivers to watch for on these intermediate tracks. We could also look at guys like Ethan Fonseca Moreno. Unfortunately, he's not in our field from Texas, so we won't see him have a shot at victory lane or just racing overall tonight. But a lot of drivers to watch for nonetheless when it comes down to long run pace. That is, of course, if we end up in that stage of the event. So far, that has not been decided. Single file restart this time by the Mustangs. Lead the way with Hayes Booth coming off of turn 4 and to the quad oval, where we'll take the green flag and back underway in the URP 120. Easy start by the drivers first and second. Looks like Roldan already under fire from John Canizaro heading for turn 3. Canizaro will try to move to the inside. And one thing about Texas, you do not want to be in that middle lane turns 3 and 4. It can be very easy to lose spots. So you're basically full throttle in the opening run. It looks like Logan Suyi might be next to attack that third car in line in that 19 Toyota Supra. The first driver that's not a Ford Mustang inside the top 5. Suyi trying to break free of this prancing horse brigade and also bringing the Camaros along with him. And another caution already flying out. Looks like more cars involved. And I believe Hunter Collier might be the reason for it. Yes, he is. And caution out quickly on the second one of the night, lap 8. Looks like right side damage on Collier's machine. Went for a spin in the same place that we saw that first caution come out. Exit turn 2, back straight away. We'll see exactly what might have happened. Maybe a contact into turn 1. He's in a battle with Chris Lilly, that 58 car on the inside heading for the first corner. I think might have been some contact between the two. Indeed, yes. A little help from Lilly as the 98 goes all the way up the track and slides near the outside wall. Fantastic job to hold on to the binders and keep it away from that outside safer barrier. But still, nonetheless, some of that contact and brings the number 98 around. Here's on board with Collier. Just the difference in brakes there. Lilly trying to dive in and make sure he can let him know, hey, I'm on the inside. And Collier tried to shut the door. Unfortunately, they made contact, and Collier in a Camaro this evening already around. He'll join the likes of Gifford and company to be near the rear of the field. And once again, under caution for the second time tonight here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway and this URP 120. Well, if you're watching a lot of the cars sported in red, white, and blue, tonight is our Patriotic Showdown, part of the schedule here in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, and one of these special races that we have in our calendar. Not often do we have these type of races, and obviously Darlington, you can look at that as a throwback race. You could put another race as something else special for paint scheme themes or what may have you. We also did have Christmas not too long ago, so there could have been a holiday-inspired theme, but tonight it's all about the stripes and the stars for the flag of the United States. A lot of the drivers sporting these patriotic colors, including your race leader. We see driver behind him, Gino Mero. Driver behind him, John Canizaro with the red, white, and blue. Everybody in their patriotic colors this evening. So awesome to see that. And the overall creativity of the entire field. And it's nice to have some of these theme races, seeing a lot of the creative talent spread amongst the painters, the designers, and of course the drivers themselves, looking for all of the inspiration that they can. And you look at Hayes Booth Machine, and driver who has not really sported a lot of sponsors this season, hasn't really had a paint scheme other than just a matte black base, but God bless America this time by on the 03 here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. And so again, we'll be under caution, and we will again, I believe, go under a single file restart next time through, which should be around lap number 12, I believe, once we get back to the green flag. That is WORC rules. We've seen that happen a couple of times this season. If there is a caution within 5 laps of a restart, or in our case for the first caution, the initial start of the race, we'll have a restart under single file conditions. And we haven't seen that since, I believe, Auto Club. We did not have any cautions over at the Long Beach circuit, the road course races having no yellows. So back to the ovals we go. And all the yellows flying, and our second one already out here from Texas. It looks like we'll go one more time before we get the lights off on the iRacing official pace truck, and we'll try to go green next time through. So as we're under caution, once again, lap number 11 of 80, we'll take a look at our full season schedule. We'll see exactly how things are going to shake up for the entire season. We do have Charlotte Dirt next up on the calendar. That'll be our first and only dirt race on the calendar. We know we had Volusia County Speedway Park just last season, where Josh Patterson took his first win of the season. He ended up becoming the series champion, so we'll see if that trend ends up continuing on the dirt. Then we head to Atlanta Motor Speedway. We're still indecisive, still need to get word from the league admins whether that is the Super Speedway configuration of the track, the one that was renovated for 2022, or the OG 2008 iRacing scan of the Atlanta Motor Speedway, the one that we saw featured in last season's calendar of this series, where Christian Visconti went to victory lane. That was his first of 2 wins in that season. Then we head over to Myrtle Beach, a track that unfortunately closed down a couple of years back, but it is living infamously in the same on iRacing. We got to go to Myrtle Beach Speedway for the last race of the regular season. We'll decide the drivers that will enter the playoffs. Then we'll head to Charlotte for our throwback week. Then we head to Bristol and Pocono to conclude the first round of the playoffs. Then the round of 9 next with Chicagoland, Talladega, and Martinsville making its first appearance on the schedule. And then to decide the championship four, we head down south, Homestead of Miami Speedway, for the final race of the season. That is on March 16th, 2023, as we have already broken in the new year. Lights are off on the iRacing official pace truck, so we will go green next time by in this URP 120. Hayes Booth, your race leader, he chooses the outside line, most notably in row number 1. Gino Mero will be on the inside. John Canizaro, Diego Rodon, 3rd and 4th on the racetrack, row number 2. Austin Doran and Logan Suyi, your drivers in 5th and 6th, row number 3, out on the racetrack. We haven't seen that much green flag racing, so tire wear has not been that big of a factor, but again, we've seen a lot of long green flag runs at this intermediate track, so you never know what could happen. But so far, everyone trying to catch that 03 as he will lead us back to green on lap number 13 of 80 and roughly under 67 laps to go. So pace truck will make that left into pit road out of turn 4, and then 03 enters the Geico restart zone with a head of steam. Gino Mero trying to predict, and the first time we see your leader on a restart take the outside lane. Our first double file restart as well here in this race from Texas. Into the restart zone, Hayes Booth jumps on the gas pedal, beats Gino Mero to the line, back under green from Texas. And already side by side for 3rd. Here comes Canizaro underneath, rolled on for position. I believe he may be able to take that spot away. They remain side by side off turn 2, bringing Austin Duran. Roldon strikes the outside wall, and Canizaro, the rookie driver, clears for 3rd. And Austin Duran to follow right behind him. And an onboard look from the 018, one of the most stellar drivers we've seen all season long. Look at the run that he put up at Auto Club just a couple of weeks back. Canizaro looking to be a favorite already as he steps into 3rd, all single file back to turn 1. Look at how close the field is going back to turn 3. Nobody really able to get away from each other, and Hayes Booth going to go full throttle into the final 2 corners. We'll wrap back to the line, lap number 15 for a side-by-side battle. I believe inside the top 6. That's Logan Suyi, Timmy Spatz going at it back to turn 1. Timmy Spatz, one of the Championship 4 drivers from 1 season ago, able to make homestead at Miami Speedway, and now in a 3-way battle, here comes Seth Warren to the inside. He may have a head of steam on the 19 and the 54, and how about Sky McGurk, rookie sensation, who finished inside the top 3 at Daytona to kick off the campaign, and has kept that consistency through and through since, as they're fighting side by side for position ahead of them. And McGurk will take advantage. He'll try back to turn 1. This is a battle for P7. Spatz now already on the back fall. As you see that outside lane, not necessarily useful here at this Texas Motor Speedway. And that's one thing that really changed from this track, from its old version back in the iRacing scan of 2009. Once they reconfigured this track in 2017, obviously it was repaved, had a lot of grip, and still does. So our caution comes out once again. I think another incident this time. It looks like Ethan Workman had more cars in it. Frederick Seagraves, I think that's Tyson Gifford that got a piece of it as well. And 2 cars parked at the exit of turn 4, and heavy damage to the 25. There's Workman in the 25 machine, front and rear clip completely torn off. The Chevy Camaro in that 93 also caught up in it as well. Our first caution to happen in turn 4 territory. We've seen a lot of it happen from turn 1, the back straightaway. We'll see exactly what might have happened on the replay. I think there were 3 wide. Heading for turn 3, there's Clayton Ramstead in the 21. Late picks the 06, the 47 machine on the outside. It looks like they do go 3 wide. Workman tried to send it in, make some contact, and it looks like the real estate just ran out hard into the outside wall. When Workman, will see exactly how Seagraves got into it. I think just late to the party as the 25 slides down the track right there, and a huge hit for Seagraves. There's Tyson Gifford slamming into it on the aftermath as well. You'll see it once more, trying to force it 3 wide in turn 3. They slide up the track. All the real estate is gone. And Workman just goes for a ride. You see the big avoidment there. I think that was TJ Lair in the 85. And then you see Chris Lilly sliding through it. A bit of damage for Brayson Collins. And then Seagraves absolutely nowhere he could go. So right on board with the 93. Was looking underneath Ryan Martin. This is a little further behind the pack. But of course, when you're trying to slow down, you're trying to make sure you can get out of harm's way. And just notices it at the last second already on the brakes. But then right here, slams into Collins. And then bam, right into the 25. Workman and Seagraves with the worst damage that we've seen all night long. Remember the couple of crashes we saw to open our race. And there are no fast repairs issued in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, so whatever damage you do take from crashes or from hits to the outside wall or what may have you, or with other drivers, you have to spend that time on pit road getting it repaired. That's been a topic we've harped on over the season because many other series, at least in my experience, seen a lot of fast repair usage, and that's been a strategy in its own game. In this series, it does not exist, so you don't have that freebie to get a clean race car. And it looks like for Workman and Seagraves, if they do not repair those race cars in enough time, looks like, of course, they've already fallen multiple laps down. At least Workman 1 lap down. Seagraves will fall 6 laps down, back to 36. Their races may be indeed over here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Early on, lap number 19 of this URP 120. Under caution once again from Fort Worth, Texas. Hayes Booth still your race leader with the first 3 cautions. Still yet to see a long green flag run. We'll take a short break, but you won't miss a thing as we continue our coverage of round number 7 of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series in our URP 120.
Wanted the best, you got him for a rest. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the World of Outlaws. Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Back live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway as we continue our URP 120 in the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series on a restart. Lap number 21 of 80. Hayes Booth in the race lead. Back to turn 1. We saw a big crash involving Ethan Workman, Frederick Seagraves, and Tyson Gifford at the exit of turn 4. It looks like those drivers may be completely out of this race. Gifford has pulled it behind the wall. Same deal for Ethan Workman. Seagraves trying to repair the car. Battle for second may be underway. Austin Doron moving up to P3 and trying to challenge against Gino Mero coming out of turn 4. And we've seen Doron so quick at a lot of these tracks, has been able, though, not to capitalize, and a huge head of steam back to the first corner. He'll look for the second lane on the first turn, and now looking for the exit. Here comes Merrill underneath the race leader, Hayes Booth, for P1 at turn 3 on the back straightaway. Booth going to give him the space, side by side, the 71 and the 03. Booth going to stay up top in that third lane. Merrill going to nose ahead. Who's going to get at the line? I believe it may be the 71 of Gino Merrill. Merrill, your new race leader, as Doron tries to fill the space to turn 1. And Booth will fall back to third. Again, this reconfiguration has not allowed the outside to be usable by any stretch of the imagination. Booth, though, looking to retaliate and make it another charge, this time for second. And Doron will give him the space in turn 3, and they'll door-to-door for position number 2. Looks like Seth Warren in the 081 might be on the background of all this, and Gino Merrill looking to run away. Doron trying his hardest to make that outside line work. Warren going to give him some drafting support. May even look for the pass entering turn 3. They'll remain side by side. And that should be the largest separation we've seen from first to second, as a 55 will relinquish P2. Now may give up P3 as Warren looks to the bottom in that black Toyota Supra. Hayes Booth back to second. And we'll look back to your race leader, Merrill, ahead by 0.3 of a second. These amazing battles spreading through your top 3. Doron looking back underneath Seth Warren. He got a little tight out of turn 2. We see that a lot happen here at this Texas Motor Speedway. It can get very easy, most notably out of turn 2, to smack that outside wall. That first 2 turns, you have to really slow the car down. Of course, with the 20 degrees of banking, it is a slower corner naturally, so you do have to slow it down, hop on the brakes. But if you do hop on that throttle a little too early, the space given to you, or the space that's shown here at this Texas Motor Speedway, does not fully tell the story. You can go a couple of lanes up, you think you have the space, all of a sudden, you're in the outside wall. It almost happened to Seth Warren there that last time through, and Warren may fall another spot outside the top 5. That's John Canizaro potentially looking down low. Thinks better of it, he backs out. We're all single file as Hayes Booth looks to catch up to the 71 in Gino Mero. We saw in the opening handful of runs in our first 3 cautions just how hard it was for the leader to get away from everybody else second on back. We've seen everybody up at the front very closely packed together, and it looked like whoever was the leader could not get away as Seth Warren strikes the outside wall out of turn 2. That'll open the door for Sky McGuirk and John Canizaro That's exactly what I was talking about, getting a little eager on the throttle, sliding up the racetrack, thinking you have enough space, and all of a sudden Warren into the outside wall. There's a look at the right front damage on his Supra. He falls back to 6. Luckily, he's going to be able to settle himself there back to turn 1. That is a dangerous spot to hit the wall, especially when there's so many drivers around you, and the 2 Ford Mustangs in Canizaro and McGuirk now slip into 4th and 5th. Looks like for now, everybody all single file. Not many battles so far on the racetrack. I think our first one might be inside the top 12. And how about this 3 wide 4 position? Garrett White, Josh Patterson, and Ethan Harrison going back to turn 1. Harrison going to back out before they get there. That could have been easily hairy. We saw one of our cautions come out. In fact, our most recent one coming out with a 3 wide battle. That's Garrett White on the high side, the driver with the most wins out of any driver in WORC Dynamo Designs National Series history. Driver Brady Cox hits the outside wall. But Garrett White on a struggle a little bit tonight. Some of the rear end damage and some front end picks up so far. And he'll fall back to 13th. That's Ezekiel Reyes there, the 957, that ACOG machine looking to the bottom, but can't quite make the pass complete. So Garrett White going to settle in that position for now. And Garrett, a driver who's very consistent, very good at a lot of tracks on the schedule, whether it be the short tracks where he picked up a couple of wins, Iowa and Bristol to be most noted from last season, the 1.5 mile wins, the one that he got not too long ago at the virtual Kansas Speedway in race number 4. And Garrett White looking to maintain that consistency. Remember, we talked about it at the top of the show. 14th in point standings wins have not been the key to lock yourself into the run for the championship. And in fact, a lot of the drivers at the top don't have wins. They're just having consistent finishes over and over throughout every single week. And Garrett White trying to pick things up. That's the driver next in line up ahead of the road. That's Diego Rodon, your pole sitter, has since fall back to 12. So it has not been a good opening 31 for the driver of this 72 and this Chase Briscoe inspired paint scheme. He'll try to look for Ethan Harrison, the spot right in front of him, and I believe they may be battling up ahead the road as Josh Patterson will look to pick up. That's actually lap car Brayson Collins in the number 5 machine. So everybody all single file as they all try to catch Gino Merrill. Caution flag though comes out once again, and it looks like it's Brady Cox in the 86. We saw him hit the outside wall a couple of laps back. And Cox now the result of the most recent caution, our 4th of the night here from Texas. See exactly whether this was a single car incident or whether there was somebody to help on the way to turns 3 and 4. A second incident coming out of the final corner. There's like a Caden Reif on the inside. Oh, it just looked like Reif already way high up on the racetrack. Cox tried to make a side draft happen and slight contact there. Not enough space to maneuver. And it just ran out as they were exiting turn 4, and almost more contact there as the 86 comes to a dead stop at the exit of the corner. We'll see exactly what happened one more time. And this happened with the 3-wide move with Ethan Workman, just trying to make space happen. You try to pinch the driver down low, and unfortunately, the space is gone before you know it. And for Cox goes hard into the outside wall, and there's a huge hit there for the driver who just went by, trying to identify exactly who that might have been. But once again, for the 4th time, caution flag out here from Fort Worth, Texas, and Gino Merrill was in pursuit to continue in the race lead, but Hayes Booth was trying to catch him. And do we see our first round of pit stops tonight? And in fact, the answer is yes. Coming to halfway, Gino Merrill leading the whole field in for service. And of course, over the first 3 cautions, you can imagine tire wear not necessarily a large factor. And with a lot of the grip that you have here at this Texas Motor Speedway, it isn't necessarily a tire eater. But for the first time, as we approach halfway, this may be one of the most significant pit stops of the night. The 71 goes into his stall, jacks up on the right side of the race car. We'll go up on the left side this time through. And we'll look to see if Gino Merrill might lead the field out. A couple of cars out already, including Josh Patterson. There's Austin Doran looking to storm Hayes Booth for P2. But Gino Merrill, the winner out of pit road. Hayes Booth, Austin Doran to complete your top 3. And 2 drivers to stay out on the racetrack, Caden Reif and Dimitri Munoz. Looks like Munoz might have picked up some damage there on the front end of the race car. And we'll see if he may come down this time through to repair it. And Caden Reif just maybe holding on to some luck here. Maybe hoping for another caution as he would stay out the driver involved in our most recent crash. And actually made that slight contact there with Brady Cox entering turn 3. So Caden Wright for race leader, Dimitri Munoz following back in second. We'll see exactly whether these drivers second guess to come down pit road. If they do, that should hand the lead over to Gino Mero in the 71. Looks like Rife and Munoz are going to stay out, so a fully assured decision here by the top two. And it looks like Gino Mero, Hayes Booth, and Austin Dorn will have some work to do against 17-lap old tires. And the drivers up in the front that will occupy row number 1. That is going to be huge. We've seen tires become a huge difference at these 1.5-mile tracks where they usually eat up the Goodyear Eagles. We'll see exactly just how long Caden Wright and Dimitri Munoz can survive. We may anticipate just exited turn 2 back straight away before everybody thrown on back may try to make some moves. But we've seen a lot of blocks dealt here at Texas with many cars in previous sim races in history. So we may just see those infamous blocks happen before they get to turn 3 in a part that's pretty much single file, 100% throttle for the drivers that are on those fresh tires in third on back. Well, just a reminder for you that Beyond the Lights Road to Charlotte is out now. Join Justin and Quentin Haley in a 4-part documentary series as they take on the famed dirt track at Charlotte Motor Speedway. All episodes are available now, and you can visit youtube.com/Limeade Media and their channel to start watching today. A great series produced by Limeade Media of Justin and Quentin Haley. Quentin, a driver who has been prominent here in this WORC series, has not shown up that much throughout this entire season, unfortunately. We did see him, though, in last season's affairs, and also Justin Haley as well. I remember both of them competing for the win and racing at the virtual Phoenix Raceway last time we were there in last season's edition of the series. So great to see them heading for the famed dirt track at Charlotte. And, of course, a great documentary series. So, again, visit Limeade Media on YouTube and visit their channel to start watching that 4-part documentary series. It came out around Thanksgiving time. It's already out. So, if you want to binge the 4-part series, you could do so right now. Or, most notably, after this race is done here in this URP 120 here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Ready to double them up for a restart. Lap number 37, just shy of halfway in this race. Caden Wright and Dimitri Munoz stayed out on our last caution flag on 18-lap old tires, so they're going to have a lot of fun trying to survive after the first 2 corners. Gino Mero, the first driver on fresh tires in P3 inside row number 2. He is joined alongside by Hayes Booth, Austin Dorn, and Logan Tsuyi, the drivers back to row number 3, 5th, and 6th on the racetrack. John Canizaro, Pierce Maffitt, Josh Patterson, and Ethan Harrison are the final drivers to round out your top 10. We've yet to see a proper green flag run here develop from Texas. A lot of cautions to break us through. And can we see the race change tides in the second half as the 97 of Caden Rife, a driver who finished in the top 3 at Phoenix a couple of weeks back, will look to continue some nice runs up at the front and will lead this race for the first time this evening in lap number 37 of 80. Pace truck will make its way to the entrance of pit road at the exit of turn 2, and it'll be all on the 2 Ford Mustangs at the top. We've seen the Mustangs be so competitive at Texas tonight, and it has been consistent all the way through to this point. Into the Geico restart zone. Caden Rife on the gas, back under green in the URP 120. And Mujo struggling on the restart. Mero going to look to the inside and may even challenge for the lead before they even get to the half-lap mark. Outside goes Rife, inside goes Mero, and caution flag comes out before they can even get there. And there's a crash near the rear of the field, a huge crash up at the rear. That's David Bachman among those involved. Connor Hervilla, Hunter Collier. And they're all able to straighten themselves out, but the caution immediately gets weighed before we really got to the exit of turn 2. There's Hunter Collier with a bit of damage. We'll try to see exactly what might have happened, and also might have just been a situation behind them. Indeed it was. And that's Seth Warren, Laith Hicks getting involved. Here's a look into the first corner. That's David Bachman there, the 119 at the bottom, and bam, the 06 just slides into Warren. Remember, we saw Warren inside the top 5. Got some damage repair after hitting the outside wall. It just looks like the whole situation up at the front had nothing to do with the situation with Hicks and Seth Warren. The 85 TJ Lair getting turned around. What looked to be Diego Rodon. There's Clayton Ramstead. That's going to be a huge hit for Ramstead, a driver in the top 10 in point standings coming into tonight's race. And watch the drama unfold. That's Ryan Martin in the bottom, the 85. I think just gets tagged coming out of turn 2, 72. Actually, no. Lair got loose and comes down the track and then packs it everybody else. Ramstead absolutely nowhere to go. Hunter Collier, the second time we see him involved in a crash tonight. And luckily everybody else is able to get back straighted, but you can just see the pack of cars heading for pit road this time by. There's Savrilla in the 29. There's a look at the 85 Allaire and what's left of his machine. Now, it was a huge hit for many drivers up at the front. There's a look at Ryan Martin. The front clip completely torn off. Martin not going to come for pit road this time by, though. So he will stay out. We may see a second guess by him. And that may add on to the attrition list and will add on to our caution numbers so far here from Texas. And basically a different 1.5 mile race. I talked about it earlier in the show. Two of our intermediate tracks that have happened so far this season, Las Vegas and Kansas, both had a combined total of, I believe, 2 cautions in those entire races. We just had an opening lap or lap 2 caution to start off the race, a quick one in the beginning, and then all of a sudden we would just have a long green flag run to the checkered. We would have a lot of green flag strategy, a lot of pit road under the green flag, but it looks like so far the tides are changing this time by. We've got a lot of cautions this time as we are approaching halfway into the next 40 laps to end this race from Texas. So Kaden Reif able to survive that restart. Dimitri Munjos, who had stayed out, has fallen back to 4th. We were going to look at a battle for the race lead on the back straightaway. It looked like Mero had a head of steam to catch up to the fellow Ford Mustang in front of him. Could not do it. Austin Doran has slipped into 3rd. Remember, we talked about Hayes Booth. He was 2nd by the time they went for that restart and coming out of pit road most notably. But Doran able to get to the stripe first. And as the caution comes out, Doran with the advantage. Most notably, Mero will have the outside line in row number 1. And Gino Mero, a one-time winner here in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, most notably went to victory lane at Las Vegas 1 season ago in a great strategy call. Actually was supposed to have 2 race wins in last season's calendar, had one ripped away from him at the Kansas Speedway under strategy, and then finally got that sweet revenge on that loss and was able to pick that win up at Las Vegas. Has been not to victory lane since, has been close a couple of times, has been fast at a lot of these larger tracks, most notably these intermediates, and it looks like tonight has been no different. Mero started up at the front. He's been one of the fastest cars all race long, but again, just needs that one little final piece to put together to grab his 2nd checkered flag of the season, and that will be huge for Mero, who has been a great driver in this series from season 1 back now to season 2. And look at Austin Duran, has been a driver that had really showed up in the midway part of the season in season 1, has made more of a full-time effort this time around, and has also been one of the best drivers in the series. A 3rd career victory at Long Beach just 1 week ago after dominating that affair. Gino Mero, actually a driver who was running, I believe, near the front with the drivers like John Canizaro in the 018 and the likes of that. So there could be a lot on the line for these drivers. And remember, in the point standings, everything is going to be key. We'll take a look at those point standings, see exactly how things fare after 6 races. Gino Mero, remember, is your points leader, so a win definitely would open that gap against John Canizaro, who has filed into 2nd. Joe Berge, Kaden Reif, Timmy Spatz, the drivers rounding out your top 5. But you look at this entire grid, all the way from 1st to 10th, and you don't really see a lot of the former Championship 4 in the playoffs. You don't see Josh Patterson, defending series champion. You see Timmy Spatz on that list. You don't see a couple of others in that group as well. And so these point standings have shooken up considerably just because of the amount of races we've had. Some drivers have not made races. A lot of them have had poor starts. We look at Josh Patterson, the storyline that we've been talking about all season. It's been a little bit of a rough get going for him in that 02. And we've just seen everything change depending on the competitors in this series. A lot of new drivers in it as well. And then drivers now making their 2nd season starts. And they're only getting better. They're only improving as time has gone on. Now you look at Dimitri Munjos, how much he's improved from season 1 to season 2 and the wins he was able to capture. And Munjos, not necessarily a huge driver in the top of the point standings right now, but one to watch for in the playoffs. Garrett White, a dominating driver at the end of last season's affair, made that Championship 4 as well at Homestead of Miami Speedway. And so far, White, despite that win, 14th in standings, he's been shuffled back a lot just because of the finishes and how things have fared out. And especially Long Beach, a road course race where we only had 22 drivers in the field, had definitely brought a lot of drivers up, brought a lot of drivers down. And it continues to be wacky up at the front of the point standings as we get closer to those playoffs. Back in the green, though, lap number 42 in this URP 120 from Texas Motor Speedway. Quick jump off of the gates for Caden Reif, but how long will that advantage last? Back to turn 1. Merrill not able to get to your race leader directly out of turn 2. We might have him into the final 2 corners, but he won't get there. Caution flag out again, and Ethan Harrison gets slammed by another car. I believe that was Lath Hicks that got into him. There's Tyson Gifford, the 2 Limeade Media cars involved. And then Henry Clapper, the 34, also getting caught up in it as well. Another caution to fly, lap 43. We have seen this race maintain caution filled, and we'll see exactly how this all began. And I might have just started. This is Sky McGuirk and Ethan Harrison battling side by side. That's in front of Ezekiel Reyes for position. McGuirk on the inside. I think Harrison just might have gotten into him, and McGuirk just travels high up the racetrack, slams into the 77. And then as Harrison comes back down the track, he slams into Ryan Zabot. And then one car comes pummeling in. There's Brayson Collins away from it, but Lath Hicks not able to escape it. And the 77 just gets completely bullied on the back straightaway as the caution flies again. Here's another look at the incident between the 82 and the 77. We talked about it coming out of turn 4. Drivers pinching down on the racetrack. When we see the opposite effect here, McGuirk sliding up the racetrack, washing up out of the second corner. It looks like the 41 of Pierce Maffick got involved. There's Zabot getting tagged at the last second. And then as more drivers got into it, here comes Lath Hicks and Collins. Bam! 2 slams. And the biggest one from Hicks. And Sky McGuirk also getting a piece of this. You see the contact once more. And McGuirk going for a full 360. I don't believe he gets hit by anybody else on the track. And there's Zabot getting the damage. I believe Garrett White might have also picked up damage. Here's a look on board with the 26. He was a little further behind this incident. And you'll see the smoke arise out of turn 2. He'll start to slow down. They start to pack up on the back straightaway. Gets around the 61, but right about here, just gets into Nick Penny. That's a 52. There's the spinning Ryan Zabot. Great avoidance on that part. But Garrett White has not found the way to get around the incidents. And there he is coming out of pit road. And a lot of damage on the front end of his Chevrolet Camaro. And once again, you remain behind the iRacing official pace truck for, I believe, the 6th time in this URP 120 here in virtual Fort Worth. So that has definitely helped Caden Reif and Dimitri Munjos, the drivers on old tires. We did talk about them staying out on one of the most recent cautions, and although the 71, the 55 and company, all those guys on fresh rubber have tried their best to catch up, Reif and Munjos have been able to stay ahead of the gang. It looks like Munjos may finally decide to hit pit road this time by lap number 26 on his stand. Remember, the Reif and company did stay out, the only 2 that did. Now Munjos going to be knocked off of the list. Caden Reif going to be the only driver needing to come down pit road before this race is over. We do talk about the fuel percentage here in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series. You saw a lot at these 1.5 mile tracks. A lot of drivers going 29 to 30 laps on a stint before officially calling it quits on their run and heading for their stall. And as Caden Reif goes for lap number 27 on his stint, he is clutching and coasting, so he is trying to save fuel in his Ford Mustang, but there has to be a time where Reif is going to have to hit pit road at some point in this race, and that may fall the same for the drivers Gino Merrill, Austin Duran, Hayes Booth and company. All of them going to have to come down pit road at least one more time before this race is over. So strategy, despite it not being a fully green race, is still intact, and it could definitely wipe some drivers out of contention for the race win, and it may even bring Reif into the conversation for a race winner here from Texas. He would become our 4th different winner in the last 4 races. He would become, I believe, the 5th different winner so far. Or rather, our 6th different winner in our series in Season 2, and Reif has been close to victory lane. Remember, talk about Phoenix, that he was able to get to top 3 at the end of that one. And Reif may be in contention. You just need to hope he hangs on to that fuel tank. And whatever is left, as Gino Merrill will pace it down on the apron. It looks like we may go another time before the lights are flickered off. And I believe we will have another single file restart. So we've seen a lot of that rule implement tonight from WORC. The single file restart rule after the 5 laps after the restart, if a caution comes out in that window. And so we'll check to see, yes, lights are off on the iRacing official pace truck, so we'll go green next time by lap number 47 of 80, and again, we'll go single file. That does help Caden Wright, though. He's able to really get a jump on the rest of the field. He doesn't have somebody on the outside or inside to worry about, and not many side-by-side battles, so he's really able to use that to his advantage in terms of the early jump. Problem is, by the time they get out of turn 2, they're already ludicrously catching that number 97 just on tire difference alone. So we'll see if Merrill, Doron, Booth, and all those guys who pitted not too long ago, whether they're able to take those spots, and Merrill will look to lead some more laps here from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Well, if you want to continue watching our coverage of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series season and their run all the way to the championship, you can tune in 1 week from tonight at Charlotte Dirt. We go for our first and only dirt track race of the schedule, and how much that could shake up the point standings, we'll just have to find out. That happens next week, January 12th, 2023, and that'll be found, I believe, right here on the KBueno Racing Network. We also have Atlanta next up on the schedule, then Myrtle Beach to end our regular season, so only a couple of races before we go playoff bound and before we decide the drivers who will make that run for the title, and we'll see if we can have another series champion in our series history. Pace truck makes its way to the entrance of pit road. Can Reif use the single file restart to his advantage? Again, they'll pack up entering the quad oval. Early jump for the 97, back under green from Texas. And the early jump definitely has helped the driver of the 97 stay ahead of the gang. Coming out of turn 2, looks like a battle for third already underway. Hayes Booth under fire from Austin Doran, or rather the other way around. Booth looking to the inside in turn 3. Looks like Doran might give up that spot, indeed he will. And here comes John Canizaro trying to make a move happen, can't quite do it. And here comes Gino Mero for the charge, heading back for turn 1. Roughly 15 laps of difference. Back to the first corner in tires. Gino Mero trying all that he can to catch up to the 97. He'll crank to the back bumper of the 97 this time through out of turn 2. Here comes Mero to the inside for the race lead. And quick work for Mero, new race leader. Here comes Booth to challenge for second, and Doran a challenge for third. The 97 trying to hang on to whatever's left, and will he run out of fuel? Doran trying to pinch it entering turn 1, make a move underneath Hayes Booth, but can't quite do it. And now Booth severely moving up through the field and trying to get to the back bumper, in fact to the inside of Gino Mero. Can't quite do it entering turn 3. Remember, we saw it under our last long green flag run. Booth really able to catch up to the driver of the 71 in Mero, and right now proving it to be the case. Mero going to pull away out of turn 4 as we approach the final 30 laps. Hayes Booth trying to do all that he can and catch back up to the Ford Mustang in front. And Caden Reif continues to drop position. He's fallen back to P8. There's Ezekiel Reyes next up on the line to try to take position away. Now here comes Austin Duran trying to pressure the 03 up the racetrack into turn 3 and can't quite do it for second. And Mero holding on for the race lead so far, setting laps in the same range. Everybody in that same group around your top 5 or so. Fastest out of the group, John Canizaro with a 30.756. And there he is, that black Ford Mustang behind Austin Doran, trying to move into third place. Potentially might take the lead away. Grabs the inside apron there out of turn 4. And again, the entire field single file. How about the driver into the top 5 for the first time tonight? That's defending series champion Josh Patterson in the O2 machine. Here he is inside the top 5, and he has been patient since the drop of the green. The driver coming out of pit road, merging back onto the track. That's Sky McGurk in the 82. Remember, we saw him in a contact on the back straightaway not too long ago. But Josh Patterson, we also talked about being a defending series champion, how much pressure that puts on your shoulders, and how much pressure it is to basically one-up yourself for the next season. It hasn't been the case for the O2, but the runs have come his way in some sort of ways, and Patterson trying to do all that he could to get back up to the top of the point standings and be able to run for a second consecutive championship, and will be the first driver to do that as he will try to catch up to all of the drivers packed in first through fourth, all within a blanket and all within 0.7 of a second. going way high, entering turn 3. Will that help coming out of turn 4? It might bring Austin Doran a challenge for second. And Booth going to be able to clear. Gino Merrill still in the race lead. Caution flag out again. And this time it's Garrett White parked at the inside apron, turn 2. And we've seen White struggling all night long, has been caught up in a lot of crashes so far. And rather, that looked to be turn 3. Oh, that was a huge hit. The 44 machine came right up the track. That was James Bomar. I'm not sure what happened. Just pulls the car to the left and doesn't get loose and comes right back up the track and then slams into the inside wall. Here's a look on board from Bomar. We'll see if it was a hardware connectivity issue or maybe just a slam to the wall. We'll see as he comes out of the second corner. Oh, and that looks like it might have been a hardware issue. Just kept it left and the car just immediately bogs down on the RPMs. And there was nothing Garrett White could do as he gets slammed into. Here's a look on board from White. This is behind Dimitri Mujoz and Henry Clappert on the way to the incident. Right here watches the 44 and just can't do anything about it. Tried to make some space, and White, who had been dealt damage all night long on the front and rear, tried to fix it and now just has severe front end damage. He'll fall to 25th as he heads for pit road. And Garrett White on a struggle here tonight from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. I believe we have seen drivers come down pit road, and that does include many of your leaders. Hayes Booth, Gino Merrill, among those, Austin Doran to also come in as well. Looks like Kanan Reif might have also headed in for pit road. And so an interesting call early on inside the final. 25 laps to go here in this URP 120. We did mention that those drivers did have to come down at least one more time, and that does also bode the same for the drivers up at the front. Canizaro on 21 lap old tires, Maffin on 21, Reyes on 22. Berge and Warren may have a little more of a buffer, 5th and 6th, or rather 4th and 5th right now, both on 11 and 15 lap old tires respectively. Same deal for Shipman in the 61. He is 12 laps on his stint. Bachman 11, Collier 11. So these guys do have to come down at least one more time. But it is going to be rather interesting to see how this all works, as we'll again have a new race leader out of the caution flag, and Canizaro will be your leader. Canizaro, driver who started up at the front at Long Beach just 1 week ago and did put up a very good show. Obviously, Austin Doran, as dominant as he was all race long, you do have to give credit to the driver of this 018 and a driver that we've seen perform so well in his first season in this WORC Dynamo Designs National Series, at least in terms of full-time efforts. And Canizaro, one of the top drivers in the run for the playoffs so far, the top 14 that'll make it into the group for the run for the championship. Canizaro came in to that race, actually finished 17th in that race, so started up at the front, but unfortunately could not end that race on a high note. But Canizaro has been fast at a lot of these 1.5 mile tracks, and it has worked to his benefit. And Canizaro again fast this time through once we get to halfway, and this stay out move may be the one that gives him the race win, especially with the buffer that he has behind him. I remember we saw the difference in tires between the top two who had stayed out, Dimitri Mujoz and Kanan Reif, but that was only 2 drivers, and even then, a little bit of a struggle through all those cautions that came out periodically that would allow Gino Merrill, Austin Doran, Hayes Booth to charge in front of them and finally make passes. For Mujoz, it was easier since he was further back to the field, but for Reif, his control of the race lead easy enough to hold on for the amount of laps. And as we look through our running order, Gino Merrill, the first driver on fresh tires with everybody else that pitted behind him, he's P12 on the racetrack right now behind Logan Suyi and Dimitri Mujoz and a bunch of others in front of him, all the way to your race leader. So if it took a while for the leaders to catch up to the 2 drivers who had stayed out in run number 1 not too long ago, it's going to be a lot harder of a route to get through mostly 10 or 11 cars or so to get to the front and to get around John Canizaro, especially with yellows that come out. That could bode well for these drivers on old tires. It could hurt those ones on fresh rubber just because they have to continuously go through hot and cold cycles, going through the gears, going fast, going 100%, and then slowing down for the caution, and then being behind the iRacing official pace truck under pace speed. We've seen a lot of equalization on Goodyear Eagles, so we could see that happen. But for right now, John Canizaro will be your race leader. He will choose the outside of row number 1. Pierce Maffett enters the top 5 for the first time all race through in that Metallica number 47. Joe Berger will be inside the top 3. He'll be joined alongside by Ezekiel Reyes in the 957. Stephen Shipman and Seth Warren, the 2 drivers, doubled up in row number 3. Then comes Hunter Collier, David Bachman, row number 4. Dimitri Munoz and Ryan Martin, your top 10. And then comes Gino Mero and everybody behind on fresh tires. Heading for the final 20 laps in this URP 120 from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, the Mustang once again in control, but this time it's rookie driver John Canizaro who hops onto the gas pedal into the Geico restart zone and back under green for turn 1. And I believe wheel spin for Canizaro. Here comes Maffett to the inside, brought along with Ezekiel Reyes, first and second out of turn 2. Three and 4 wide battle inside your top 10. There's a look at Logan Suyi on the bottom. Austin Dorn and Gino Mero powering on the outside and trying to make a move work inside your group. And Pierce Maffett to the race lead on lap 59. And these green flag laps are going to help the likes of Mero and company as they try to carve their way through the field. There's Mero underneath Dimitri Munoz. That'll be a battle for P8. Austin Dorn and Hayes Booth and company to follow. And it's going to be easy work heading for turn 3, 100% throttle through that corner. But for right now, Pierce Maffett able to hold on. There's a look at the pack developing behind them, and your top 3 have broken away out of turn 4. And the first time we see Pierce Maffett in the race lead all race long. Now here's a battle inside your top 4. There's Joe Berge underneath the 081 of Seth Warren. And maybe 4 wide, indeed 4 wide. There's a look at Gino Mero trying to make it all the way happen on the inside with Gino Mero. And Austin Dorn making his way through the middle. No catch up to Warren out of turn 4. Mero to the inside. They're roughly 3 wide, poor position in the quad. Roll to 20 laps to go. And you talk about the difference in fresh tires. There's look at Patterson, also on fresh rubber, to the middle lane. Inside, 3 wide, there's Joe Berge. They'll get loose. And here comes Hayes Booth to make it 3 wide again inside the top 10. Oh, and around goes Munoz, sideways out of turn 4. Collects a couple of cars in it. Munoz will save it, will stay green. That was contact with Chase Marsden in the 89. They keep it collected, and Munoz going to park it now to the inside of the apron, turn 1. And somehow will stay green. Your top 3 now breaking away. Now caution comes out. Finally at lap 62. And we're not sure whether that was Munoz coming to a stop at the entrance of turn 1, whether that was what brought out the caution. But we'll see exactly how this all unfolded. Look at them 4 wide on the back straightaway. Here's a look for Munoz. He was getting handled all by Hayes Booth. There's Josh Patterson up the road. Gino Mero and Austin Dorn had already worked their way through this group. Most notably, you'll see them go 3 wide, almost 4 wide there as Hayes Booth tries to puncture his way through David Bachman. Munoz catches up to the group. He has to back up. He gives a bump to the 119. Then here comes DJ Powell on the inside. And I think they might have made contact entering turn 3. Some space runs out. 356 comes up the track. 60 comes down, and they make contact. Powell makes contact with Munoz, and then Munoz makes contact with Chase Marsden, and somehow they're all able to keep it straight. Munoz completely sideways on his Ford Mustang. And then right here just calls it quits. I think that might have been enough to cause that yellow flag. Didn't see anybody else involved in a crash. And as soon as that happened, the caution had waved. So indeed, that was the cause of the yellow. And Munoz, who had parked it, decided to end his race early here, lap 64. Has pulled it behind the garage. He adds on to the DNF list, which includes Frederick Seagraves, Ethan Workman, Chris Lilly, Brayson Collins, Brady Cox, James Bomar, Ethan Harrison, Laith Hicks, and Garrett White. And so we have another yellow to bring the field to rest inside the final 16 laps from Texas. What an unbelievable sequence. And we talk about the tire difference at these 1.5-mile tracks, how much they matter. It doesn't necessarily matter as much here at Texas with the amount of grip that you do have. But even then, still, when you have a lot of laps of difference, most notably more than 10, it definitely creates a huge speed difference. And Merrill, Doron, Patterson, Booth, all those guys on fresh rubber. And it was a miraculous job by all of them to get around the traffic without making contact or without creating a crash. And Gino Merrill back to the point here from Texas. Austin Doron to follow, Josh Patterson, Hayes Booth, and Seth Warren. Your current top 5 is, I believe, the drivers who did stay out, which started with the 41 of Pierce Maffitt. They have all decided to come in for pit road. We'll see exactly where Maffitt is on the scoring charts. He will be back to 17th. Those are drivers starting on fresh tires. TJ Lair, everybody 16th on forward, on roughly 9 or so laps on their set of Goodyear Eagles. And then follows through Ezekiel Reyes, Joe Berge, Henry Clappert, Hunter Collier, Ryan Martin, all those guys now heading for pit road that time by many of them for damage repair. Got a question, or rather not a question, but just a statement over in the YouTube chat by our good friend Francisco Bacchial, one of our fellow commentators at the KBueno Racing Network. He says, not a question, but shout out to the And Justice for All Metallica paint, obviously referencing a driver that was just in the race lead and now to 17th, or rather 16th right now on the track. That is the 41 of Pierce Maffitt, a Metallica-inspired paint scheme this time through. Not patriotic by any case, but still a great paint scheme nonetheless, a very simple one at that. And Pierce Maffitt having some laps led on the marks here tonight from Texas. We'll see if he can use those fresh tires now to his advantage. Again, the difference is going to matter, but the traffic might be the biggest issue, as we almost had roughly 3 or 4 cautions in that span of those couple of laps before we finally got that yellow. And now we will have our 15-lap dash to the finish with Gino Merrill, Austin Doron, and Josh Patterson inside your top 3. Remember, for Gino Merrill, this will be his first win of Season 2, his first since last season at Las Vegas. Austin Doron looking for his 2nd consecutive win of the season, his 4th career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win. If he can get it done, he'll be the 2nd driver in this season to go 2 in a row, following with Dimitri Mundros, who did it a couple of races back. Hayes Booth still going for that first win of the calendar. Josh Patterson looking to shoot up to the point standings. A win for him would be huge on his round to a 2nd consecutive title. Seth Warren, a rookie driver, looking for his first, and many others trying to chase for the end of this race in the URP 120 here in Fort Worth. We're doubling them up for a restart, lap number 67, roughly 13 laps to go. Where Gino Romero will choose the outside line in row number 1. Austin Doron will follow alongside in row number 1. P2, Hayes Booth will be 3rd. Josh Patterson will be 4th, and then Seth Warren and the 61 of Steven Shipman, the 2 drivers inside and outside of row number 3. We've seen a race dominated by Ford Mustangs, had a Toyota Supra lead a couple of laps as well. But could we see the Mustangs get all the way to the very front with the driver sporting the red, white, and blue in the 213 Simware on his 71, looking for his 2nd career victory in the series, and will lead the field with these 13 laps left on the table to see if we can finish this race under green, under the lights here in Fort Worth, Texas. Pace truck will make that left to pit road. Gino Merrill will have the advantage and discretion heading for the Geico restart zone. And the 55 trying to react. Green flag back in the air with 67 laps complete. There's Hayes Booth trying to look on the outside. Caution flag, though, immediately waves, and it's John Cannizzaro involved in turn 1. Looked like him and Joe Berge might have made contact, and they both went sideways. And And we could not go a lap before the caution flies again. We'll see exactly how it all unfolded. I think it might have started with a stack up on the restart. There's a look at the 18 and the 41, both on the inside lane. This time through, this is the stack up in the restart zone. On right there, Berge just nabs the grass, looking 3 wide underneath the 018. And that was Logan Suyi on the very top. You look at Canizaro, that black car in the middle. Berge grabs the grass and gets loose, moves up the track, and then tags the 018 of Canizaro. They both go for the spin. Canizaro tags the barriers on the inside of the racetrack. And that is more than enough to cause another caution here from Texas. Here's a look at Joe Berge's in-car camera. And right there, the grass so slick. And especially when you're high in the revs, moving through the gears, it could be so hard to get that car back under control. And just traveled it up the track, and there was nothing Canizaro could do to get away from the mess. And I believe they're both able to continue. Not much damage on either the 41 or the 018. But of course, two drivers who had hit pit road most recently, and who had been trying to pick their way through the field. Unfortunately, that progress ultimately stalled. And the time may be running out. We'll cross the line, and we'll definitely have a restart inside the final 10 laps of this race here from Texas. Also to note, if we do end up in a caution within 3 laps to go, we do have an opportunity to end this race under overtime rules. So we'll get the field doubled up. We'll go for a restart inside 2 laps to go. We'll try to finish that race under green. If a caution comes out before the leader catches the white flag, we'll double them up and do it all over again. I believe we have 3 attempts at a green-white checkered. I could be wrong on that, but I believe we do have more than 1 attempt to finish this race under green. If the leader does get to the white flag, no caution is called. We'll race it all the way back to the stripe. We'll have a winner at the end of our URP 120. Again, on the line, Gino Mero, your points leader by 9 points, looking to extend that gap, heading for Charlotte Dirt, which should be our biggest wild card of the season, apart from Long Beach 1 week past. Austin Doran, the winner at Long Beach, looking to be the second driver to go 2 in a row in this series, and looking to severely shoot at the point standings inside the top 10. Hayes Booth still looking for that first. Remember the heartbreak that happened at Phoenix just a while back in this season, looking to redeem himself on that effort. Josh Patterson, who had been struggling all season long, this one win could turn his whole season around. Seth Warren looking for win number 1. Then you look even further behind. Steven Shipman could be win number 1 for him. DJ Powell could be win number 1 for him. Win number 1 for him. Timmy Spatz as well in the 54, win number 1 on the line as well for the driver who made it all the way to the championship for 1 season ago. So many of the drivers looking for their first ever win. Only that special few in the top 2 looking for, or the top 4 rather, looking for their second. And we will have a restart inside 10 laps to go. We should have it, I believe, at 8 laps to go. Lights are still on the iRacing official pace truck, and for pit road, it looks like that has done it. These drivers that did go in roughly 15 laps ago, I believe they do have enough in their tank to go all the way to what will be 25 laps under stint, obviously under caution. A lot of time to save and hit that clutch pedal, be able to grab a couple of drops of fuel. And so we will wrap around this Texas Motor Speedway one more time before the lights are flickered off, and we will have that double up sequence to go for green flag racing, or I believe we'll go single file actually under WORC rules, so we do. And Gino Romero may have an even easier time grabbing him through the gears and being able to get to turn 1 without any problems or without any pressure. We did see wheel spin affect one of the drivers as they were doubled up. I believe it was John Canizaro under fire from Pierce Maffett. They were both side by side entering turn 1 just because of the wheel spin. So that may happen to Merrill. Just has to be careful moving up to the gears. And I believe this time by we'll have the lights off. We'll have a restart inside 8 laps to go. Remember, all the drivers that were most recently pitted, Pierce Maffett now 7 laps into his stint. He has moved up to 14th, obviously, with the quick yellows. That really hasn't helped any of the progress from them. Ezekiel Reyes and company also in that group as well. And so we'll see exactly how they fare out. It may be easier for them now that they're all single file. Heading for the restart zone. We'll have Our restart, 8 laps to go here in the URP 120, and Gino Mero in control of the race. Austin Doran, Hayes Booth, they've been fast all race long. In fact, in some ways faster than the driver of the 71 up front. Can they make a move to get around Mero and try to get a race win here from Texas? And regardless, even if he doesn't win, Mero will still most likely hold on to the points lead. But adding that win could be oh so special, and especially at another intermediate track and in style of racing that he went to victory lane at once before. There's no doubt he may do it again, and will be single file on the restart. Mero first, Doran and Booth, the rest of your top 3. Josh Patterson fourth, Seth Warren your top 5, Steven Shipman, DJ Powell, Timmy Spatz, Diego Roldan, and Chase Marsden, the 89er, round out your current top 10. Will we see the race end under green in these final single-digit laps? We'll have to find out. Into the Geico restart zone. Gino Mero up on the gas pedal. Hayes Booth immediately looking for second. Green flag back in the air. And a beautiful jump for Hayes Booth into turn 1. Shot at the inside of Austin Doran, and he looks for second, heading for the back straightaway. Mero with a slow run out of turn 2. Here comes Booth with a head of steam on the back straightaway, heading for turn 3 for the race lead. And this is a trouble spot for Gino Mero outside in a full throttle. Texas 3 and 4. They remain side by side for the lead, and it looks like Booth may nose ahead to the stripe. 7 laps to go from Texas. And how will Austin Doran play this game as the leaders remain side by side? The Mustangs settle through. Booth is able to clear for the lead. Here comes Mero back to the inside and can't quite do it. And it looks like they'll allow Josh Patterson into the mix. He is settled in P4. Hayes Booth trying to pull away. Austin Doran trying to fight for second. 6 laps to go this time through. And we've seen Hayes Booth catch up to that 71 many times over a run, but can never complete the pass. Now that he has it done, can Mero respond? Now to turn 2, Mero with a run. He'll try to block on Austin Doran. He does so, shuts the door back to turn 3. And that could have been huge if they made contact. Patterson completing a 4-car breakaway. Mero grabbing the apron out of turn 4. Still going to make the block. They'll nab the grass in the quadruple as Booth pulls away by 0.3 of a second. And this is good news if you're Hayes Booth, the driver who continues to pull away. Mero slowing down dramatically, and Austin Doran doing all that he can to move to the inside to the outside. He'll try again. They almost make contact. And for Hayes Booth, now up to 0.4 of a second, the largest lead we've seen all night long. Mero still playing heavy defense as we cross to the final 5 laps in this URP 120. Doran with a huge run out of turn 2. Can he make a pass up on the outside? Answer is no. Looking again to the bottom. Another block by Mero into turn 3. And this only continues to shut down what could be a run from Austin Doran, your race leader. Finally, Doran works to the inside. Mero blinking in and out. And to the inside, here comes Doran. But do they have enough time to catch up to Booth? And that was huge, and a huge loss on lap time for Doran, who now has free headway for Hayes Booth as Gino Mero tries an opportunity there to get back to second. And the 03 looking for the magic 3 lap to go mark from virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Booth 0.3 of a second ahead, but Doran looking to catch back up. And that last time by, 0.2 of a difference. Booth a 31.2, Doran a 31 flat. The driver in the 55 with a huge run out of turn 2 this time through. And this race not over as Booth almost strikes the outside wall. Final 3 miles on tap from Texas Motor Speedway. Does Doran have anything left in the tank? You're right on board with Doran entering turn 1. A huge dive. He'll make contact with Booth. Booth goes sideways. He'll be able to save it, but the caution comes out, and we are heading into overtime. Booth is able to keep the car straight. Austin Doron moves to the race lead. But at the cost of a restart inside 2 laps to go. And the lights are on again, lining the fence on the quad oval front straightaway. And we will have ourselves a final restart to decide a winner in this URP 120 as the leaders make contact in turn 1. There's nothing else we could really say about that other than just diving hard on the brakes. And Austin Doron had been so quick at doing that. A lot of the lap time chopped off just because of the entrance into the first corner. Here's a look at Doron. And obviously no intent there by the 55. Just was trying to enter the way he'd been entering the entire time through on this run. That's why he'd been catching up so severely on this number 03. And here's a look on board with Doron. Just a dive on the brakes. Booth a little slower on the entrance, trying to arc the car in. And Doron making the slight contact. He picks up no damage. I don't believe Booth does either. But he goes for a quick spin. Luckily, nobody else gets into him. And a fantastic save by Booth. Here's on board with the 03 into turn 1. And right there, just gets caught sideways. There's Gino Mero and Josh Patterson on the inside. They're luckily able to squeeze through, and Booth able to save it. But it could be at the cost of a race win, and Austin Doron penalized for cause of caution. And he gets dropped to the end of the longest line. And Gino Mero gets handed the race lead going to the final restart. Wow. And you have to imagine that race control had to step in at some point with the incident. Obviously, of course, Doron not looking to do that on purpose. But the cause of yellow, still worthy of a penalty. And Gino Mero moves back to the point after losing it on the last restart. And he will grab another chance at a checkered flag. And it has to be tough there for the 55 of Doron, obviously trying to race as hard as he can and trying to push that car to its absolute limit to get around that number 03 of Booth for the race win. It would have been a fantastic battle, by the way, between those two. Such strong race car drivers in sim. And ones that we've seen in contention for wins so many times in this series. And unfortunately, Booth will drop back to third, and that might just be the final nail in the coffin for him. And it might just be another heartbreaking end to Booth looking for a career win number 1 in this series. It looks like he may be inside row number 2 by the time we go back to green. So the good thing is he may be able to jump Josh Patterson if he's able to catch up to that 71 by the time they get into that restart zone. And Mero trying to throw the entire field off. Well, we'll see exactly how that all unfolds. But for right now, that's 71 in control. And Josh Patterson, your defending series champion, slotting into P2. And this will be a huge race for Patterson if he can get to victory lane. Still a huge race regardless if he's able to finish inside the top 3. Just because it hasn't been the best season for this Toyota Supra and this Dynamo Designs car in respective category. Timmy Spatz now filing into 4th. It looks like DJ Powell might be the next driver to line up the top 5. And those will be big wins for them as well. It will be Timmy Spatz's first. It'll be DJ Powell's first. But all of them have to get around the 71 of Gino Mero as he takes the race lead, and we will stay under caution. We'll see if we do get a lights off on the iRacing official pace check this time by Austin Doron. He got that end of line penalty. He now files through to 23rd on the racetrack. That is the end of contention for the win for Austin Doron, unfortunately, with that contact with Hayes Booth entering turn 1. And we'll watch whether we do get the lights off on the iRacing official pace truck. Of course, back to our rules on the overtime restart. And the lights are off, so we will indeed double them up and have this restart. 2 laps to go, we'll have here at Texas Motor Speedway. If a caution comes out before the leader gets to the white flag, we'll double them up and do it all over again. We have a handful of attempts to get this race finished under green. If the leader does get to the white, no caution is thrown. We'll race it all the way back to the stripe. No matter what happens, we'll have another different winner, whether that be Gino Mero in the 71, Josh Patterson in the 02, Hayes Booth in the 03, Timmy Spatz in the 54. All of the drivers you're watching right now in the first handful of rows have not been race winners this season at all. So we will have our 4th different winner in the last 4 different races, regardless of the circumstance. Maybe if all of them wreck up front. We never know what can happen, as Gino Mero will have control of this race. He'll be in row number 1 inside lane. Josh Patterson outside of the same row. Hayes Booth, Timmy Spatz, 3rd and 4th on the racetrack. DJ Powell, your top 5. Pierce Maffett, Logan Suyi, Steven Shipman, Caden Rife, and Seth Warren to round out your current top 10 for the final 2 laps here from Texas. Gino Mero looking to end this race with a checkered flag, but so is everybody else. Pace truck on the entrance to pit road. Mero enters the Geico restart zone. Patterson tries to drop. Green flag back in the air with 2 laps to go in the URP 120. And Patterson got bitten off of that restart, tried to jump as much as he could. They're roughly 3 wide, and caution out again. We'll have another attempt. I'm trying to figure out exactly who that might have been. And there was contact behind, and that was actually, I believe, it was a 119 of David Bachman. Got into contact with John Canizaro up the road, and they stacked up on the restart. It was them just trying to get on the gas pedal, then they hit the brakes hard, and they all stack up. They're 3 wide. And they both made contact, and Canizaro has had an absolutely abysmal race ever since getting moved to the rear of the field on tire strategy. There's the stack up again with Chase Marsden in front of them. They make contact not once but twice, and they go 3 wide. That's Hunter Collier in the 98 on the inside. And then right there, Bachman makes contact with Canizaro. They both go sideways up into the outside, save for barrier. And that is well more than enough to bring us another caution entering turn 1. And yet again, more laps behind the iRacing official pace truck. Caution out again from Texas Motor Speedway. We'll see if we can end this race under green, but for right now, Gino Mero in control in the URP 120. We'll be right back after this.
Race, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Two laps to go on a restart, second attempt at a green-white checkered from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Glad that you're back with us of our coverage of the URP 120 on the KBueno Racing Network. Gino Mero and Hayes Booth in row number 1 to a restart with 2 laps to go. Back under green, back for turn 1. Almost a bit of contact inside the top 5. That was Timmy Spatz, I believe. Actually, no, that was Pierce Maffett and Josh Patterson making contact as Patterson sent a block. A huge gap between Mero and Booth. Couple of drivers strike the outside wall. Will we get a caution before the white flag? Hayes Booth, one of the fastest cars all night long, will have one more opportunity to catch up to Gino Mero. He's under fire from Patterson. Gino Mero to the white flag from Texas. And Patterson already diving for a second. A huge run into turn 1. Patterson slides up in front of the 03 and may have a last charge. And Gino Mero into turn 3 and 4 for the final time. They snake trail on the max straightaway. Still a dead heat battle for second, but Gino Mero will find his way back to victory lane. Checkered flag from Texas. Gino Mero, second career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series victory. And a great battle for second. Josh Patterson, the winner out of all of that. But Gino Mero able to hold on. There's Hayes Booth giving his congratulations. Timmy Spatz as well. They're crashing at a turn 4, but Gino Mero back to where he was at Las Vegas just one season ago. In victory lane, and Mero gonna burn it down. And after getting the lead ripped away from him in one of our last green flag runs by Hayes Booth and Austin Duran, and then the contact ensuing between the two, Mero was able to slip by. And the 71 back to victory lane. There's Seth Warren and Sky McGurk, the two drivers to celebrate with him. And as of race 7, 4 different winners in the past 4 fairs. This ties Mero for 3rd on the all-time wins list, with Dimitri Mundros at 2. And a stellar win for the points leader coming into tonight's race by 9 points. And it should grow abundantly after tonight's event, as Mero leads a heap of laps and finds his way to the checkered flag, and he'll drive it to Texas victory lane. He'll be able to have that cowboy hat on his head and fire those pistols in victory lane with a fire right behind him. Gino Mero, your winner from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Let's take a look at your full field results from Fort Worth. Gino Mero, his second career victory, comes here tonight, his first of season 2. Defending series champion Josh Patterson finds his way to second at the end of all of the mayhem. Hayes Booth able to follow through in P3. A great battle between those two drivers in second and third. Pierce Maffett finding the Metallica machine into P4. Timmy Spatz to wrap up the top 5. Logan Suyi into P6. Ezekiel Reyes, his first start since Auto Club one season ago. Great effort for him as he ends up into the top 10. DJ Powell will come home in 8th. Seth Warren to 9th, and rounding out your top 10 will be the 97 of Kanan Rife, up and down all throughout this race, but able to get a top 10 out of all of that. Steven Shipman in the number 61 is 11th. Chase Marsden to follow through in P12. Hunter Collier to finish 13th. Joe Berger will come home in 14th. Austin Duran picked up as much as he could under those final restarts after getting an end-of-line penalty for that contact with Hayes Booth in turn 1. He drops to 15th on the grid. Nick Pena ends up 16th. Ryan Zabot will be 17th. Ryan Martin 18th. 19th for TJ Lair. And Clayton Ramstead in the 21. It's going to be a huge hit for him in the point standings as he finishes inside your top 20. Henry Clapper, 21st, 22nd for Connor Hervilla in the 29. It'll be 23rd for John Canizaro. Got caught up in 2 incidents near the end of tonight's race. David Bachman to finish 24th. Diego Roldan, your pole sitter rather, 2 laps down in 25th. He will finish. Sky McGurk will also be a tough night for him from Texas. He finishes 26th. It'll be 27th for Tyson Gifford, 15 laps down. Dimitri Mundros, also a tough night for the 2-time winner this season. 28th, he will come home. Ethan Harrison will wrap up the night in 29th, and rounding out your top 30 will be the 26th of Garrett White, a DNF in tonight's race. Everybody behind also found their way behind the wall in the garage. Laith Hicks in the 06, James Bomar in the 44, 32nd, 33rd for Brady Cox, 57 laps down, 34th for league owner Brayson Collins. Chris Lilly will come home 35th. Ethan Workman, Frederick Seagraves, and Alexander Hyder will be the last drivers in tonight's field. 38 cars started, and 38 cars will have the end of it at our unofficial results, as we will look overhead at the driver who ends up in victory lane. It is Gino Mero, his second career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win, and it comes here at another intermediate track, this time from Fort Worth, Texas. We're bringing the driver who fires off the pistols with a cowboy hat on his head. Gino Mero, victorious once more. Gino, I have to ask you about the last stint of this race. I mean, you were quick all night long. That wasn't a question at all. The big question was how you were going to get back after you had been passed by Austin Duron and Hayes Booth for the race lead, and then they make contact into turn 1. What were your thoughts at that time, and most notably, how were you able to hold the rest of the field off for the second career win?
Oh man, I'm I am absolutely tired, but just right front was cooking, man. I knew as soon as Hayes got by me, he's my teammate, and I was cheering him on for the win, and then I was trying to hold off Austin, just try to keep P2, and I was just hand over fist trying to like get it to turn, and I knew if I were to slow down, he would just go by me, and once he got by me, I was just backing off, saving my stuff, and that happened in turn 1 with them battling hard. I mean, no hard feelings. They talked about it in the race, and it's just racing. I mean, Hayes survived and Austin survived. I'm not sure he finished, but oh man, what a race.
Unbelievable race from start to finish for you, of course. Your car quick as a bullet all race long. I mean, I know that you've been very quick at these 1.5 mile tracks in particular. I mean, your last win in this series before tonight came at a 1.5 mile track. So what really took you right here from this Texas Motor Speedway, and what were you able to learn to make this car as fast as it was?
Pretty much just rhythm. Coming from a couple of weeks ago at Auto Club, I just knew I needed to be more smoother and needed to save more tire. I didn't really do it like with 20 to go, but and all in all, I just needed to slow more down and try to save more tire. And I love these mile and a halfers. I'm not really a big fan of speedways, and when it comes to mile and a halfers, I feel like I have good rhythm, even though I sometimes suck.
You had a 9-point buffer to second place John Conazaro on the point standings before tonight's race. That should easily balloon after tonight's race in your win here from Texas. And now we're heading to the final 2 races of the regular season. It looks like as long as you continue the way you are, you should be an easy entrant into the 2023 playoffs. So how are you going to use this win's momentum in particular to keep yourself on the points lead and to try to have as much momentum as possible by the time you make that run for the championship?
Pretty much just confidence. I know last season was a bit messy in the championship 4, and I'm pretty sure last year I said I wanted some redemption, and well, this is it. I want to go for some wins. I want to lead the points, and I want to just be at the front all the time.
Well, this definitely does it here from Texas Motor Speedway. Gino, before we let you go and send off our congratulations on behalf of our broadcast team, anybody else you want to thank for tonight's phenomenal run here in Fort Worth?
I want to thank Hayes Booth for him working with me. I worked with him at the start, and he's a really good friend and really good teammate. And a big thank you to Maverick Motorsports. We've been struggling a couple of weeks, but definitely showing our speed here in mile and a halfers. I'm not sure how the next couple of weeks are going to go, but with our consistency, we're pretty much going to make it into the playoffs. So big thanks to them, and big thank you to 213 Simware for the merch.
That was big what you said. Redemption going back to the championship 4 from last season. Tonight, definitely a good step in the right direction. Gino, on behalf of our broadcast team here at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on the win. Of course, Happy New Year. I know it's a couple of days after, but still, happy 2023. Congrats on the win. We'll see you 1 week time from Charlotte Dirt.
Yep, thank you, sir.
So that is Gino Mero in the 71 to victory lane, able to hold off the rest of the competition, and despite losing the lead near the end of the race, was able to find his way back to the front, and that is his second career WORC Dynamo Designs National Series win, his first of the season. And just like we said, he is your leader in the point standings. Coming into tonight's race, it's the same deal coming out of Texas. We'll talk to the driver who finishes in P2. It's your defending series champion, Josh Patterson, in the O2 machine. And Josh, you had an absolute battle with Hayes Booth coming to the end. And we're looking at it on our feed right now, this dive into turn 1 to try and take second away. You win that group. But most notably, just take us through this race. And you started around the mid-pack. This race mostly chaotic, very different from a lot of other intermediate races that are very clean in this series. What was it like behind the wheel from your perspective?
I don't know. I'm just happy I did well enough to get an interview. I had a pretty terrible start to the season, so this is a pretty good turnaround. But this race specifically, I think I don't know, a lot of attrition from everyone. But I felt like I was able to move up through the field pretty quickly. I didn't get involved in anything, and I think that was pretty crucial. And then we ended up just having good pace under the car, and well enough to stick with the leaders up there. And then, the end where between Doran and and Hayes was kind of what shot me up into the fight for the win there. And that last lap was a bit chaotic because I knew I had the run on Hayes. I just sent it down in there. He gave me room, and then I was like, you know what? I'm not giving this spot up now. So blocked him way down, and he was cool with it. We he's a good guy, good racer. So good battle with him, and congrats to Gino on the win.
And you said there it's been a rough start to the season for you, most notably as the defending series champion. And tonight, obviously, a second place finish. Definitely going to be huge. It's going to shoot you up to the point standings, and it should get you close to contention, if not already in that mark for the playoffs as we enter the final races of the regular season. You were able to grab a win the last race of the regular season last season. So is there a way you're going to try to use the momentum on the second place tonight to probably look towards Charlotte Dirt, Atlanta, and Myrtle Beach as possible opportunities to win and get yourself back for that second consecutive title?
Yeah, I'm hoping that there's going to be some good momentum. Going into this race, I think I was sitting 19th in points, and that's way out of the points or way out of the playoffs. So hopefully the second place gets me pushed up there a little bit. But yeah, I mean, definitely, having the best finish of the season is a good way to finish out tonight. And I know last season I didn't really get started doing well until the end of the season like this. So if this is the same way it went last year, then I'm perfectly fine with that.
Well, a fantastic finish regardless in your Toyota Supra and the patriotic colors, I have to say. Beautiful paint scheme tonight under the lights from Texas Motor Speedway. Before we let you go, Josh, on the finish tonight, anybody you want to thank in particular for this run?
Yeah, I got to thank everybody at Dynamo Designs and Limeade Media. All the guys at Patriot Clutches, Vulture Racing Engines, Belfort, EBC Automotive, the Keystone Corner. I got to thank you for coming out and broadcasting tonight and every week. I got to thank Brayson for putting on the league, and thanks for coming out tonight and putting on a show.
We certainly appreciate the time. You definitely did put on a show, especially in that last lap against Hayes Booth for a second. Josh, congratulations on the top 3 finish. Looking forward to seeing you in the last 3 races of the regular season. Charlotte Dirt most notably next week. But until then, congratulations in this URP 120 second place.
All right, thanks a lot, Kenneth. See you soon.
That's Josh Patterson in the O2 coming home in P2. He did have to beat one driver, though, to get there, and that was the driver who finishes in third, the driver of the O3 in Hayes Booth. And Hayes, first off, of course, I want to ask you about what happened there in turn 1. You got hit by Austin Duran. You went sideways, a beautiful save behind the wheel of your Ford Mustang. But how did that change your approach heading for the last attempt, and the first of all, last 2 attempts at a green-white checker to end the race?
Yeah, well, first of all, to address the Austin situation, really, I would just chop that down to a racing deal. I had some front end damage and older tires because I had rammed my tires so hard trying to get away and get back through the field. So I could tell I was getting tight in 1 and 2, so I was trying to drag the brake and back up my corner. And at the same time, Austin's faster and probably with newer tires, and he's trying to drive it in hard to get by. And it's 2 to go. I would really just chop that down to a racing deal, so I'm not, no hard feelings in that department at all. Honestly, overall, the race went better than I kind of expected. I'm still kind of struggling with saving tire and, kind of figuring out the right braking and just overall what to do right at this track. So, a podium, and my boy Gino, gotta love it, man. I'm so happy for him to bring home a win. Teammate, it feels really good to get our team, on top. So really happy for him. And yeah, overall, I'm happy to come home with this podium tonight.
And this race in its entirety, very different. And I talked to Josh Patterson about this as well. Very different from the other intermediate races that we've seen so far this season, where at Las Vegas, at Kansas, just saw a lot of green flag racing and not many cautions. Tonight, it seemed like the opposite. A lot of cautions in between some shorter green flag runs. So how were you able to adjust behind the wheel to make sure the car was fast and to also make sure, most notably, especially near the end, I also want to talk about that, you pinching your way through traffic with Gino Mero, Austin Duran, and everybody else on fresh rubber?
Yeah, definitely. I think part of us expected for there to be more cautions, just because as far as mile and a half goes, at least in my opinion, Texas is on kind of the tougher end of the spectrum. So I think I wasn't really surprised to see more cautions. I wish we didn't get as many as we did, but I definitely wasn't too surprised, just because of, it is a tricky track to figure out. So yeah, I think part of us expected that. Part of us wanted it to go more green than what it did. And yeah, that I can't remember what lap it was, but when Gino and we pitted for the last time to get our last set, and I remember looking on the relative and seeing that we were like 13th and 14th or whatever spots it was, and I was like, all right, yeah, it's time to kill our tires to try to get back to the front. And I had some contact there trying to force it 3 wide, and that gave me the damage that I had. But just really, we were blessed to have it play out the way it did.
Played out the right way. You finish in the top 3 here in this God Bless America Ford Mustang, and a great patriotic scheme for our patriotic night here at Texas Motor Speedway. Just before we let you go, Hayes, on the podium finish, anybody in particular you'd like to thank for tonight's run?
Yeah, I just got to thank my parents. They're watching. They've been supporting me so much through my sim racing journey. I think my grandmother's watching, any other friends that I have watching, and my team at Maverick Motorsports. Glad we could bring home the win, and most of all, my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because I wouldn't be anywhere without him.
We certainly appreciate the time, Hayes. On behalf of all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, congratulations on this finish here in this URP 120 from Texas, and looking forward to seeing you in the final 3 races of our regular season and Charlotte Dirt next week.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys.
So that is Hayes Booth in the 03 coming home in P3, the final driver in our driver interview segment for our podium. And of course, we turn our attention back to the driver who gets to victory lane out of all of the mess, Gino Mero in the number 71. Winner for the 2nd time in his WORC Dynamo Designs National Series career. Of course, we did talk about the point standings. This is how it looked before we dropped the green flag tonight. Gino Mero had led by 9 points over John Canizaro, with Canizaro's poor finish tonight from Texas that should easily grow to more than double digits, and Mero with this win that is going to matter a lot of laps led as well. So this top 10 may just look completely different, and again, we are heading to our final races in this 2022-2023 season. So a lot could still be decided for the 14 drivers that will look for the entrance into the playoffs and will try to get a championship this time through once we head to mid-March in the virtual Homestead Miami Speedway. 1 week from tonight, January 12, 2023, we will have the next race on the calendar, race number 8 out of 10 in the regular season. We head for the first and only dirt track on the schedule at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Be sure to catch that coverage at 7 p.m. Eastern right here on the KBueno Racing Network. We'll head to Atlanta right after that for race number 9, Myrtle Beach to close off the regular season, and then we kick it all off at Charlotte Motor Speedway, race number 11, before we end the first round at Pocono, kick off the second round at Chicagoland, and end that round at Martinsville, and then once we get to Homestead Miami Speedway to decide the champion of the WORC Dynamo Designs National Series in Season 2. So for everyone involved at the World Online Racing Championship, for Brayson Collins and everybody at the admin team, for Charlie Beyer, Keelan Belsha, and Francisco Bacchiao at the KBueno Racing Network, and for myself in the booth, my name is Kenneth Bueno. Saying so long from Texas, congratulations to Gino Mero on the race win. We'll see you in 1 week time, slinging the dirt from Charlotte.